What's up, guys? Welcome back to season 3 of Drive Clean. I'm Larry Casilla from AMMONYC.com. I am crazy excited that we're back, and I thought we'd start the season off with a bang. I am driving my dream car, Ferrari F40. Only about 1,300 of these made. It's a 2.9 liter V8 twin turbo. You guys know how it works. So on today's episode, we're gonna be talking to Kevin Brown about his Kevin Brown method on how to polish this track car. This is an F40 track car, even cooler. So that and a lot more coming up on this season of Drive Clean. I don't get to see my car when I'm not driving it. This is unbelievable. I think my brain is about to explode. I'm driving an F40 looking at my own car. We actually have a lot of work to do. Welcome back to season 3 of Drive Clean. I'm Larry Casilla from AMMONYC.com. On this season, we'll be showing you how to repair glass, restore headlights, how to dyno your car, and of course, a restoration detail on the most iconic Ferrari ever produced for the public, the F40. But before we jump into the new episode, I'm excited to let you know that season 1, 2, and now season 3 of Drive Clean can be viewed in their entirety for free right here on the Drive channel. So, on the season opener, I thought we'd tackle the most common question I received since last season, and that is, what are the steps for polishing my paint correctly? Now, for the past 3 years, I've been studying and following the polishing techniques known as the Kevin Brown method. What's interesting is that most of these techniques are slightly different than traditional polishing methods the detailing community has become accustomed to. This segment will certainly make you rethink how to polish your paint altogether. So, who better to describe the Kevin Brown method than the man himself? Now, your big concept that sort of changed the game for me in terms of polishing was residue control. That was like a mind, that blew my mind. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's something that, it's not a new idea. Matter of fact, the whole Kevin Brown method, which was not named by me, by the way, okay, it's really nothing new. You know, guys have been seasoning pads and blowing pads clean for decades. Mm-hmm. It's just a necessity, but I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what are the advantages to priming versus not. Low speed versus high speed. So in making this procedure that was easy to understand, I would take everything to an extreme. 1 RPM, 5,000 RPM. What are the things that can change when you adjust speed or pressure or quantity of product or water misting? What are the things, the dynamic things that can change? So using that idea, that philosophy, it enabled me to learn You know, hey, if I recommend low speed, these 5 things are the benefit. If I recommend high speed, these 5 things are the benefit.
Kevin Brown started detailing in 1984 in Newport Beach, California. His work has been featured in multiple magazines, TV shows, and countless concours events, and he's considered one of the most precise and methodical paint polishers in the entire world. But the true genius of Kevin Brown is that he can explain and teach exactly what he's doing, what the compound and polish is doing, and how the pad and the paint react to his inputs. Kevin thinks differently. He consistently challenges traditional methods and mindsets of paint restoration, and his advice has proven invaluable to me and thousands of fellow detailers around the world. Now, in terms of residue control, paint's going to be coming off. There's going to be residue. We call that residue.
We call it residue or debris or contamination.
And it's going to and contamination is going to get stuck in the pad.
Right.
And if you're not constantly flushing it out, it's going to cause damage.
It's going to reinstall the defects you're trying to remove in the first place.
Yeah, so you're constantly fighting yourself.
And not only that, it also slows the performance down. So if your goal is to cut away defects, when that debris accumulates on the pad can't do its job. The paint residue or debris is encompassing the abrasives and the buffing compound, you know, causing it not to be able to do its job.
Sure.
And it just slows everything down and diminishes performance.
So basically working clean, if we had to put it in a one big word,
the biggest thing
is working clean.
Is working clean. Your environment, your tools, your clothes, your pads, everything.
So let's back up a second. Now, the original KBM article that was written years ago was a simple set of instructions that allowed paint polishing enthusiasts to drastically increase the cutting and finishing capabilities of a random orbital machine. Now, before the dual action or random orbit machines, rotary was considered the only way to go, despite it being difficult to master and incredibly easy to damage the paint in novice hands. So why am I and thousands of detailers so excited about these secrets? It's because it allows us to achieve better cutting, much better finishing, in a much safer, easier, and less time-consuming technique than using traditional rotary polishers, thereby completely changing the industry of paint correction and the overall look of our cars. Before beginning any compounding, polishing, or even wet sanding of your paint, it's important to wash your car to remove any dirt and loose contaminants, clay your paint to peel out any embedded contaminants, dry thoroughly, and then use compressed air if you have it available. Lastly, Kevin gives the paint a final wipe down with IPA to remove any remaining wax or oils to ensure no foreign substance will interfere with our pad-liquid combination. Tell me a little bit about the plethora of tools that you brought
I think
here.
it might be a little bit of overkill, but better to have it than not.
Of course.
You know, starting with the simplest tool, and most people have a handheld or cordless drill, and this would be just an extension and a 30mm backing plate that if you needed to.
Did you make this, or I don't see these around?
No, this is not a Kevin Brown special, but these are. I went ahead and made 30mm interface pads for sanding, microfiber discs, foam pads. So just in case we needed to get into...
You really want to geek out on detailing. Look at the size of this pad versus a normal size pad.
Then I got the same thing in a 2-inch version. And then we step into what's called an orbital. Now this is really designed to denib. Very, very small movement, so you're not affecting a large area.
Got it.
Next step up would be a random orbital. Now this is quite a bit better for polishing and for sanding, in my opinion, because this backing plate rotates in addition to the machine making it oscillate. And it oscillates more. Where this one might oscillate just a tiny bit, this one is substantially bigger.
And the difference between those two throws is where work is getting done?
Right.
Very cool.
Okay. After that, I brought the rotary. The mainstay of the
rotary,
industry.
Like the big boy. Now
yeah,
this is just a small version.
I have a big handle just to pretend, right? Now this one is very good for getting into tight areas like door sills or pillars. So now this one is my favorite. This is the Rupes LHR 75. It's also a random orbital, but it has a massive throw. Where these have 1.5 millimeters, 3 millimeters, this one has 15. So it's very safe, just like any random orbital, but this one is an unusually large stroke, we call it. So.
This is my favorite. This is the workhorse, the 21 here.
That's my favorite too. It's the King Kong. It's the one that transformed our industry.
Yeah, it certainly changed.
It's getting copied now, but this is the Italian version. This is the first one. I happen to have backing plate on this one that I trimmed down. It's actually a 6-inch plate that I trimmed down to 5 1/8 inch, so I can use it with a variety of 5-inch pads. Okay, because I wanted to use 5-inch pads in some areas, so even the new Meguiar's pads, I can put that right on there.
Yeah, cool.
I think we can get everything done we need to with this many tools. What do you think?
I think we're more
in
than
good
ready
shape,
to go.
yeah.
We got enough ammo.
Yeah.
Once your paint is contaminant-free, or what we refer to as naked paint, Kevin performs a test spot to gauge how hard or soft the paint is and what might work best on this particular vehicle on this particular day. This step is critical for 2 reasons. The first is that it will save you time in the long run by minimizing the risk of redoing your work. And 2, because this step will allow you to leave as much paint on the vehicle as possible while removing enough paint to correct the scratches. For this, Kevin is using the Roops 21 with a yellow 6-inch foam pad and M205 polish. His goal is to simply test the paint with the least aggressive product, see the results, then increase the abrasives or pad selection if more cutting is necessary. What do you got going on over here with the tape?
Well, we basically double taped it. We made it so that even though we have a good coverage of protection, we made it very easy to remove. We're using a minimal amount of the adhesive to hold the tape in place, because I myself have had situations where I've removed tape and it's lifted paint. You know, unbeknownst to me, it was chipped or damaged or thin or whatever would be the case. Anybody that tapes paint probably had that happen to them. So minimize the potential for damage by using a minimal amount of adhesive.
Very cool.
Yeah, and taping is not just for making 50-50 shots. I do a lot of taping to protect the pad from rubber and the rubber itself. We don't want to get metal debris from stainless steel trim into our pad as we polish by polishing over it. So in those cases, you would tape the stainless steel, not to protect it as much as to protect the pad from getting the stainless steel debris in.
Very cool.
Huh?
The Kevin Brown method number 2 tip is pad priming. Now, traditionally, detailers would mist the pad with a detailing spray. Use 4 to 5 pea-sized drops of product and use the machine at high speed to begin their paint repair. Now, the Kevin Brown approach is to prime or season the pad completely with your product. This is something you must do, and no area of the pad should be without product. So take your time and thoroughly coat every pore or fiber with plenty of product. Using more product, as opposed to 4 or 5 drops, keeps the paint residue or debris from burying the buffing liquid beneath the dead paint, which can drastically affect your machine's cutting ability. Finally, tip number 3, Kevin recommends using water, not a detailing spray, to mist the surface prior to using your machine on a low speed to extend the life of the buffing cycle without having to add more liquid. These seemingly minor changes have allowed me to minimize my time spent on paint correction, thereby increasing my daily productivity and profitability. All right, Kevin, we spent a good amount of time on this, but what would you think this would need in terms of time if we were going to do a 100-point concourse car?
Something like that could take upwards of 80 to 100 hours, maybe even more.
As much as I'd love to hang out with you for 100 hours,
we
didn't have 100 hours to do it. But what we did was take a track car after we spoke with the owner and turned it into something that looks spectacular with your help, of course. And I think he's going to be thrilled. And we did exactly what he said he wanted.
Yeah.
Right?
He wanted to gloss it up and protect what's there.
Which I think is like a very big important point that we're talking to people about. Like, what does the customer want? And I think we achieved it here. So to recap, the Kevin Brown method.
Number 1 thing, residue control. When you compound, when you finish, you keep that pad clean and everything works better. The speed of cut, the level of finish, everything.
So when you're polishing, basically the stuff that's coming off is getting embedded in your pad and it's reintroducing scratches.
It's scouring, it's killing cut, it's killing
blow
finish.
it out and
blow it out
clean
and
it
use microfiber toweling if you don't have compressed air, and keep everything as clean as you can.
Now number 2, pad priming.
Pad priming is very important in maximizing the speed of cut when you're compounding and consistent performance when you're final polishing.
Now the third one is interesting because we didn't really talk about it, but I was watching you the entire time and I've seen you carry water on the side of your pocket here and you're polishing and you go 1 spritz and you keep going. What's that about?
Well, we call that a supplemental wetting agent. I happen to use water. I think that's the best thing to use as opposed to a detailing spray because those can have waxes, silicones, and other ingredients that can actually affect the cut or finish. So supplemental wetting agent helps you use less compound, keep the pad cleaner because it creates a drag. So as you finish your polishing cycle, it looks like the compound or the polish has disappeared. It hasn't. It's sticking to the pad. So quick mist of water, run across it again, and it pulls it back out.
Those tips are absolutely huge, and it certainly has helped me with my polishing. But you have, I want to say, 2,000 more tips that are on your website, which is at buffdaddy.com.
That's right.
There's going to be lots of questions, I'm sure. Visit him. You can call him. He'll pick up the phone. If you have questions for me, you can email me at larry@ammonyc.com. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. After finishing up at 3 a.m., both Kevin and I realized we missed the most important final step of our detail. And that, of course, is the drive. New York City at 3 a.m. with a spotless F40 is a dream I couldn't have even conceived when I first started detailing. But with educators like Kevin pushing the limits and letting us into his detailing mind, we, as an industry, benefit from his creativity, dedication, and passion. And for that, the detailing community thanks you.